Hi, everybody. We are getting things set up here and seeing who's coming in. If you arrive, please say where you're calling or logging in from. This is the WorkLife Pivot netcast. And when I start to see people coming in, I'll jump in. Let's see. We've been having some computer issues this morning. So it may be a little slow to respond. But as I said before, if you log on, please say where you're calling from or coming in from, and we can keep track of who's attending. And hopefully the viewing is going okay. This has been one of those days of computer craziness. I had 10 minutes before we logged in. My computer completely blacked out. It's all part of what happens in these virtual worlds. But I'm just going to keep going and see who is able to join us. So welcome to the WorkLife Pivot netcast. And this is a series of discussions that we are going to be having on various topics that relate to this whole idea of pivot. And as I said in previous netcasts, the concept of VUCA is like never before. So the volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, and the ambiguity are in just beyond. So as we think about how that impacts us, we need to start to think about where we pivot. So that's why we thought with our business and our discussions, this would be a good way to go. So the idea of everything that's going on right now is sort of a simplified version. When you see a fork in the road, take it. So the take it, though, creates that ambiguity, complexity, volatility, and uncertainty. So it's ambiguous. How do we know where we need to pivot to and where we go? So if it's to be, it's up to me, is the topic for today. And we can choose, this is the ideal opportunity, that we have a chance to choose where we go from here. So it's not even the new normal anymore. It's the next normal, or the other thing we've been hearing is it's the next regular. Now, when we think of all the things that are going on with us and all the things that come at us at warp speed, if it's to be, it's up to me, mindset is so important for these uncertain times. So what gets in the way of these types of options and these choices? Thinking traps are certainly one thing that hold us back. And the idea of the paradigms that we have embraced over the years, the paradigms that sort of resonate with us because we're used to them. They kind of feel comfortable. They're what we have latched onto, because to do something else, to switch the conversation into something uncertain and unknown, is difficult. But when we think about what does that mean in terms of if it's to be, it's up to me, the thinking trap can be, well, I've been told to do X, Y, Z, or my position requires me to do X, Y, Z. or it's either or thinking. I'm either going to be working from home or I'm going to start to pivot and go into the office. I'm either going to send my kids to school or we're going to be at home 100% of the time. Now, with all of these things going on, the COVID situation has put a big wrench in the system, but we still have the ability to kind of alter that in terms of how we manage it. So because the other piece of all of this is that it's all integrated. It isn't just one box and one direction that we take. And it becomes the options that we need to look at based on the path and the direction we take. One of my favorite books that I was introduced to years ago, and I use it with a lot of my coaching discussions and with conversations that I have with teams, I introduce the book, Change Your Question, Change Your Life, written by Marilee Adams. And I love it because it starts with, this whole idea of thinking traps and either or. If we start to think of the questions we're asking and follow up by the answers we're giving to ourselves, most importantly, then we can take a different path and see, am I going this way or that way? And one of the things she talks about in the book is, are you a learner or are you a judger? And I see some people are joining now. What I'm talking about is thinking traps and either or. Thinking about, if it's to be, it's up to me. And how do we manage that? So one of the tools that I've used is a book, Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. And she mentions something in the book about, are you a learner or a judger? And the idea is you have a, kind of that fork in the road that I mentioned early on. So you can either be the learner and start to take the path up the hill, or you can be a judger and fall into the worry pit, the anger pit, whatever word you want to throw in there. The good news is that we have the ability to pull ourselves out of the hole and go up to that learner path and make a different outcome. So it doesn't have to be either or and the negative context that we can slip into. So with our survey that we did over the past couple of months, we had a lot of questions around the worry. We asked people, what are you experiencing? And the worry was around, should I return to the office? And then our follow-up to that is, will there be an office? Some of the offices are closing down. Some of the positions aren't available anymore. So how do we, if it's to be, it's up to me, impart wisdom of our own into that choice? So one of my favorite quotes was from Oliver Wendell Holmes, who was a Supreme Court justice in the early 1900s. And he said, what lies before us and what lies behind us are small matters compared to what lies within us. So we have a lot that we can do, and sometimes we don't think that we have the option to make a new path or to set ourselves into a new direction. So one of the things that we have recommended as a result of this survey is to assess with a 3-part plan. And have this, kind of the answer to, if it's to be, it's up to me, the approach. You could take this simple approach, which is, number 1, what are your strengths? Really tap into knowing and understanding what your strengths are. Number 2 is to leverage your network. I mentioned this last week, and the importance of networks and engaging and enlivening them. One of the things you could do is, Dave, my business partner husband, wrote a really great blog that's on our website around this whole idea of competency, skills, and networking. And so you get further information by reading that if you go to worklifeonline.com. Or you could, the other piece on our Work Life Consulting page here is, if you click sign up, you will be taken to our website, and you will also receive a download of a questionnaire, which is your career goal assessment. So it's a great series of questions to help you assess where things are at and ask yourself some key questions around, what do I do with my career? How do I pivot? And then the third piece is to create a plan. So the plan could be an extension of what these three steps are, or it could be tapping into what you may have started with your own development plan. And the way that we help our clients to assess their strengths, and not only their strengths, it's actually 4 pieces, is the Berkman questionnaire, which you can see more of on our website as well if you're interested. The Berkman questionnaire gives us a method to tap into what are people's passions. What do they get out of their passion and their interest, their direction that really keeps them going and motivates them. So the second thing is strength, which we just mentioned with the 3-part plan. When you know your strengths, which is our most positive, most productive behavior, and also most visible, then we can align that with our passion, and we're in a pretty good place. Passion, by the way, is not necessarily based on skill. Sometimes it's a great partnership, but other times it's not so. We don't necessarily love what we do, but we tend to be good at it, so we stay with it. The third piece is your motivator or your needs. When you know what you need, then you can tap into those needs and have your strengths matched. And the fourth piece, if we don't get those needs met, we see stress behavior. So we help our clients, we help teams to stay out of the stress by identifying what their DNA quote is and those needs are, so that they can be functioning as a high-performing team in light of their own strengths and how they work and operate together, and also celebrate that diversity of thought. So in the last few minutes of today, I'm going to be sharing a pivot story of mine, and one of my props is this white glove, and I'll just put one of them on so you can see that. So the story here is about white gloves. So when I was first in school, in college in 1968, so quite a while ago, I went to an all-girls school in Boston. I just wanted to go to Boston, put both gloves on here. And that was my dream. That's where I wanted to go to school. So what I didn't know with the all-girls school is there would be a requirement that we attend tea time, and we are not allowed to wear slacks. So I had an English mother, did not have tea time growing up. Slacks were kind of the dress code in my world, and I didn't really relish being told what to do. So I thought, how do I do my pivot story here? And I wasn't thinking of that at the time, but how do I, if it's to be, it's up to me. I realized I took the momentum and took the steps that was required to put that in place. And I became president of my class. I changed the rules. The white gloves were gone. The slacks were in. And what that also gave me for my journey moving forward is that I was destined for leadership of some way, shape, or form. I needed to make things happen and change the direction of what I saw, because if it's to be, it's up to me, and I've sort of carried that mantra my whole life. So we're wrapping up now. Thank you to those who joined us today. Next week, we're going to be talking about kind of let me get my notes out here. The story will be a work-life integration, where we take a look at how do we manage the fact that we live where we work and we work where we live. And we'll be taking some pieces out of our survey that we shared a little while ago. And please join us. It will be every Wednesday at noon. That will do kind of a recharge, a little quick hit midday to kind of help you to get on your own pivot path, or if it's to be, it's up to me. Give a kind of a jolt to think of that way. We will also, if you sign up for our email list and get the information that we have there, you'll hear about upcoming events, webinars, future broadcasts, and also like our page so that we can keep the momentum going and get the message out. So thank you again for joining us today. And for those of you who were just dropping in, we're talking about the work-life pivot, which is a netcast series that we're doing. Today we talked about if it's to be, it's up to me. And we're trying to keep these to 10 or 15 minutes because I know everybody's busy and we have the next meeting to get onto. But this will also be a recording, so you can come onto the WorkLife Consulting Facebook page here, and if you're on our mailing list, we will be sending the recording out as well with a link and announcement to next week's Facebook Live. So thank you for joining. Remember, if it's to be, it's up to me. Have a great day.